Welcome to First Things First. I'm Brooke Blurton. My pronouns are she and her.
I'm Matty Mills. My pronouns are he and him. And before we get started, we'd like to acknowledge the custodians of the land on which we record. And for me, today, it's the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation.
And for me, it's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. Let's get into it.
All right, we are so excited because we have Leah Purcell, who is an internationally acclaimed actor, director, producer and writer on stage and screen. She is a proud Murray woman from Mergen, Queensland. Leah stars opposite Sigourney Weaver in the recent Amazon Prime Video limited series, The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart. She's also appeared in many TV shows, movies such as High Country, The Last Cab to Darwin. She was an incredible lead actress in Wentworth. She wrote, produced, directed herself in The Drover's Wife, The Legend of Molly Johnson, and there is just so much more to talk to her about today on our episode. She's won multiple actor awards for her roles, as well as being nominated countless times for actors and Logies. She hasn't won a Logie, and that is absolutely disgraceful, but please give a big warm welcome to the one and only Leah Purcell.
Yay!
Thank you.
Oh, it is so nice to have you in studio.
Yeah, no, pleasure to be here.
I didn't want to butcher your traditional name, your traditional country's name,
Yeah,
so I thought, you know what,
hot
I'm
topic.
going to get you to say it.
Yeah.
Who's your mob and where you from?
Yeah. My mob are Goa, Gungri and Waka Waka, so that's three clans from different parts of Australia due to stolen generations and being, my grandparents being tossed around. Goa is up near Winton, Longreach. Out that way, and then Gungri is down Mitchell. So that's my grandmother's country in Mitchell, and then my grandfather's mother's country is Goa. And then because my grandmother was stolen from Mitchell and taken to Cherbourg, and then my grandfather's mother sent him down to her sister who was at Cherbourg. My mum was born on Cherbourg and lived there till she was about 15. Then my grandfather got a job in town in Mergen, so I was born in Mergen and grew up in that area till I was about 19, and then I took off, as they say.
Well, talking about Cherbourg, Cherbourg Mission, many mob come from this place. What was your childhood like?
Cherbourg's about 3.6 clicks out of Mergen. Mergen was the white township, and then back in 1904, I think it was, the government was looking to do an experiment on allowing Aboriginal people to govern themselves on a bit of property. Wow. But what they did was fence them all in and told them to look after themselves and live the best they could. And, of course, the mob did. But within 6 to 8 months, they depleted the area of kangaroos, of what they were living on and everything else, and went back and said, we've done what you've said and we can't get out to go hunting for more. So what are you going to do? So it became that experiment. Then the churches came in to run Cherbourg. So
missionaries, eh?
Yeah. There's a book that's called The Dumping Ground, because there was about 300 different people from different tribes that were the start of that area. And then, of course, anyone that was being stolen generations or had to be moved somewhere, they bring them to Cherbourg. So a lot of people have that historical connection to Cherbourg, which my family does. And we've still got family on Cherbourg and in Mergen. But growing up, mate, you're very fortunate when you grow up in the bush, I think. Of course, there was our trials and tribulations, being fair-skinned blackfellas. We got racism from both sides of the fence. Yeah. And I thought about that a while back, and I wonder why we got that racism from our own mob. And it was because all the other fellas that got exempt from the mission left to become the Brisbane blacks. But my grandfather, he stayed in town. So we got that resentment from some. I reckon that's my theory. Yeah. Because everyone else has gone away and made another community. But we stayed. There were still rules and regulations that applied to my family as well, but they had that freedom of movement, where they didn't have to be back out of town by sundown and back on the mish, Yeah. But, 1975, there was still a superintendent there. We had to get permission to go and see family. My mother was a rat bag. She goes, I'm not going to no white man tell me that I could go see my mob. Oh, mate, I used to say, Mum, we're going to get locked up, true. And but I remember, and I, as you get older, I'm 54 now, you sit back and you think, and we call it that Murray joy, that big loud laugh, blackfella laugh, eh? Oh. And I remembered, I was thinking, someone was telling me a yarn, that they got told to be quiet, and they said, oh, you're destroying my Murray joy. And I went, you know what, I was, back in the days in the 70s, I was a lookout.
Okay.
And it was in my uncle's house on Cherbourg. And when my mother would go out there to visit them, of course not getting permission, they'd pull all the curtains and they'd sit in that kitchen and they'd talk. And when they laughed, it'd be silent. And I remember sitting at the front door because I'd watch it, see if a policeman was driving around or coppers or someone was coming. And no wonder I got anxiety. But I remember sitting at that front door and I'd look back at them and they'd all be this silently laughing. And not until years later I remembered that and I went, it's because we weren't allowed, and no wonder we're loud and proud now, which we should be. I think it had to do with loud and proud and black, for the thing. And so it was, that was interesting. And this is true as God. Just the other night at 54, I sat there and I went, I know why I do what I do, because I get often go, well, Leah, why were you that one child that got out, made it out?
Yep.
And I was thinking about it last night and I said, you know what? It's because I had 3 things in my life that I was able to be passionate about. And that was netball.
Yes. What position did you play?
Goal defence. I made it to the Queensland All Blacks team, but that year they ran out of money, so we couldn't go to New Zealand. I was about 15, 16.
Wow.
And then I did acting at school. I had a short course music theatre. So I was lucky to have that. And I guess the other one was that extended family, I grew up the youngest of 7 kids, so it was like I was home alone. All my other brothers and sisters are a lot older than me.
Okay.
So it was just me and my mum and my grandmother. She looked after my grandmother for 27 years. She was bedridden with arthritis and Parkinson's disease. Wow. So she was my spiritual connection to culture, me and Nan. We were quite close. And then having that extended family of, my mum was very close with the mob at Cherbourg, and we would go there and everyone would come and see Auntie Flo or Mrs. P.
Yeah.
And even though my mother at times I could see her being the servient black woman of people that was higher authority in town, she'd become this other woman. And then at other times when she was allowed to be herself, she was this loud, proud, determined. She was 4 foot nothing, mate, but she could make grown men quiver. You know what I mean? And everyone would go on, I tell Auntie Flo and you, and she'd waddle over,
That's where you got your staunchness from, I
think
reckon.
so, but mate, she was 4 foot nothing. I got a bit of height behind me, a bit of shoulder, but she was deadly. And I think having that, and then just that extended family love, and being at that generation coming through the 80s where we didn't have technology, where you actually sat down and entertainment was singing. Like I had a sister that was a jukebox, you know what I mean? I was only thinking about that the other day. And we'd sit down, there'd be singing, there'd be dancing, there'd be laughing, there'd be crying, there'd be political stories spoken about. So it was a real education, And I was quite young, so I'm very lucky that I guess one thing I got from my white dad was he had a good memory. And he was tall.
That.
So, but that's about it, But I was only thinking about that, and I said, I think that's why I was able to grasp that dream that I had. I had no idea how I was going to achieve it, but I had 3 things in my life that actually fed my passion.
And recently you've discovered that, like as in...
2 nights ago.
Wow.
I'm lying in bed and I'm going, gosh, I'm 54. I think I know why I managed to do it. I had,
that's amazing.
Even though there was hardship, I had joy.
Yeah.
There was this passion. Not so much if it was joy either, but there was, like I loved my sport and I, played it hard because I could see it took my aggression out on the field, or on the court. And then the passion to be able to go to school. Like I was no good at anything else, but when that 3 months, that's when I could shine. And, I was a junior to get the first dancer. Then the teacher, on those days, we had Saturday's rehearsal and they'd smoke and Leah take them kids outside and make them learn. Don't bring them back, drawing back hard way on a cigarette. So I was choreographing, and then I got the first junior to get lines, because you had to earn your stripes to go through. And then grade 12, I was going, I'm going to be the lead. I've earned the stripes. After grade 10, I was the first junior to get speaking lines of Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah.
It was Gloria, the sexy secretary.
Ooh,
and I got my first laugh with the splits that I had to do.
Yeah.
And I even remembered because the teacher said, just pretend you can't get up, like that's the joke.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, righto. And the town hall fit about 400 people.
Yeah.
And Mergen would come and support. It would be a packed night every night.
Beautiful.
Over 3 nights. And I remember getting that first laugh, and I looked up stage and I went, wow, and then I just hammed it up, mate. and it was so, it was that encouragement. And then, going through high school, I had the opportunities and told the teacher that they can't direct and I should do it.
Wow. You sound like me, I'm telling you. I remember being that little kid, and I want to ask you this question of like, do you think that some of us, like, some of us who go off and do the dreaming, chase the dream, Do you think we're born with something that is like innately in us that we have to achieve what we set out to do? Or like if, for instance, for me, I'm completely different to my mob. My mob are really happy back at home in Tamworth on Gomeroi country, living content lives in the bush, you know? For me, I had this dream since I was a little kid and I had to achieve it no matter what. And it changes all the time. But did you have that? Or was it?
Yeah. No, there's a photo of me at 4 years old with my brother's guitar.
Yeah.
You know, and we shopped at the dump and my mum would made this little chair for me that folded up.
Yeah.
So I thought I was real deadly, like that was my production. And when they'd have them sing-alongs, charge-alongs at home, in the kitchen, I'd pull that chair out and I'd play the guitar and sing a blues version of Humpty Dumpty and 5 times. So, yeah, I think that was performance was in – I come from a lot – my mother could sing, dance. I've got an auntie that was a writer, singer-songwriter back in the 40s. You know, so I come from that family. But I think you've got to have something – that's just in your DNA that makes you that little bit different. Even though I had no idea, like I fell pregnant when I was 17, I had my daughter just after I turned 18. A month after I had my daughter in September, my mother died in October, you know what I mean?
Yeah, wow.
So I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, remember you wanted to be an actor, but I have no idea how. I'm going to come from little old Mergen and I got a newborn on my hip, how I'm going to achieve that. Wow. But it was having that dream and remembering what strangers in the street said to me. You know, one fellow I remember I was jogging somewhere, I think it was a Friday afternoon, going to the pub to see where my mother was. And I jogged past him and he went, "You should be in Hollywood." And I was 15 and I went, "What?" But he kept walking. But I heard it and I went, "Oh, that's nice that they think that." And then I think that just kept the drive, And then sort of, and my mother always used to say, look out for number one being you. And if you look after yourself, then everyone that you look after is going to be fine.
I love that advice.
And when I looked at myself in that mirror that day, I was on the wrong side of where I should be. And this little voice went, "Didn't you want to be an actor?" And I went, "Yeah, I did." And then I just sort of put one foot in front of the other and taking opportunities. I think we see opportunities. Or it's our dreaming and it's all mapped out in front of us and it's up to us whether we turn left or turn right and take those steps, you know. So luckily I took the right direction, I think.
I love hearing about your childhood and your experiences, and there's so many that I guess connect mob in different ways. Like I think Maddie and I always talk about how our situations in our childhood, like we were separated at birth or something because they're so parallel. And then I guess some of the stories that you talk about remind me of my grandmother and my mum too growing up. Those little messages that come up, I think that they're like the little sparks like here and there, like the little motivations along the way. And I truly believe that, there is some sort of dreaming that kind of leads you down the path, whether you want to take that road or not, is like you just got to trust the process. Yeah. And I think that's really hard to trust the process. And I can imagine with your, experience now, there are so many opportunities flying at you. Like, how do you navigate that and choose what you do and what you don't do is probably what I'd love to know.
Yeah, look, and, I've been, 34 years in the industry now, so you got to earn your stripes, There was times where you had to do things because you got to keep relevant, you got to keep your talent honed, your skills up. But it does get to a point that the roles become repetitive, you know what I mean? And it is about going, what do I want to do as a performer? Because I was sort of going to semi-retire from acting to focus on my direction and writing just before I got Wentworth. Like, can you believe it? Oh. And I made this big speech to Bain. I went, right, that's it. I'm going to just hang the acting hat up for a minute. And,
Thank the ancestors for that. That you got Wentworth and that changed.
Oh, mate. And then that phone call.
You made Wentworth, to be fair.
Yes.
Oh, bless you. Oh. And then to get that phone call, I went, "You're kidding me." Yeah. And then Bain goes, "What are you going to do?"
Did they write that for you?
Yeah. Oh, they had me in mind. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. And I said, well, if I put my actor's hat back on, I said, mate, a television show that's already established, #1 drama around the world, a role where I collaborated on, and they had me in mind when they wrote it. I'd be stupid not to take it, wouldn't I? Yeah. And, of course, with Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, when the phone call come in, I went, who's in it?
Yes, Sigourney Weaver. No,
yeah.
no
that was
deal.
after I was big noting going. I was big going, who's in it? Who's the lead then if I've just got this little support role? And they went, Sigourney Weaver. I went, yep.
Yeah.
I'll be with her.
I said, I will carry oxygen for her. I will give her water. I'll just stand beside her. She can have all my lines if she wants. Yeah, so that sort of thing where I was wanting to be. But every role that I take, I want to be challenged.
Yeah.
And I think that's where what I look at now in a role is, one, the writing, of course. How much work will I have to do on the script for someone else?
Yeah, no, totally.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I do look at the writing and that collaboration if there's an urge to do it. But then someone of Sigourney Weaver's legend Hollywood and her talent and, I want to be challenged. I want to be nervous again. It's nice to go in and be nervous, on your first day when Sigourney Weaver walks in,
She was an inspiration for you growing up,
Oh,
right?
mate, I was, in Mergen, I think Alien first came out 79. Yeah. So by the time it got to Mergen, it was 84. Yeah. I was 14, saw her and went and into my acting at this stage. And I went, oh my God, that's me. Yeah. I've got to meet her. I said, we got the same jaw, we got curly hair. And at that stage, when I watched Alien, of course they had already started Alien 2, but I went, there's going to be a second. I know it. Yeah. And I said, and I'd walking around Mergen going, how do I get a letter to Hollywood? And they went, what do you want to get a letter to Hollywood for? I said, because I got to tell them that I should play her daughter because there's a daughter in that at the end of that thing, and I think it's got to be me.
This is so freaky now all these years later.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and then I said to her, when we met over Zoom, I was playing very cool as you got to do. Mm-hmm. And then I went, Sigourney, before we go, she goes, is there anything else, Leah? We talked about the script and all that. And I went, there is one thing. I said, for me to be able to do my job right, you got to give me one thing. And she goes, what's that? And I said, a fangirl moment.
Yeah.
And I said, just one. I got to tell you this good yarn. Yeah. So I told her and she pissed herself laughing. And and then it was, and that sort of broke the ice for me too, because I could just be me, and she was great. We did a screening of Drover's Wife for her and the car and the crew and the cast of that production. We're out wherever we were at Tamworth Way there. I can't remember that. Musselbrook? Is that out that way?
Yeah, halfway.
Yeah. So we went there to the theatre, to the picture. Cinema. It's a picture show. That's real, Morgan. The cinema, and showed her, and she loved it. Cried a river and gave a beautiful speech. So it was really cool. So when I'm looking at stuff, I want to be challenged with the role. Mm-hmm. It had a Stolen Generations thing in it, and I sort of said, "You guys got to tread lightly. Use a white fella's coming in on this." Yeah. And I said, my grandmother's stolen, so your story better be better than mine. You know what I mean? Yep. And I've said that about. Back in the 90s, 8 film scripts came to me about Stolen Generation. I said no to every single one of them, and none of them got made, and rightly so. Yep. So I look at that subject matter, and I can be picky now because I've earned my stripes, and I've got my own production company. So it's about where I want to spread my energy as well, because I want to get my own shows up. I want to get my own stories. So, but sometimes I did Shader because I got a lovely letter from. The director, Shader. Nora, and she said amazing things. It's about also giving my support and putting energy behind new voices from diverse mob as well, and so it just depends. But I really want to put a lot of energy back into my own stuff now because I've done everyone else's
so well. I mean. We'll get to Drover's Wife, but I want to take you back to maybe this is either a myth or a legend, but I want to ask you. Mm-hmm. You talk about now that you can pick and choose. Back in the day when you were just starting out, is it true that you were the support act for Shania Twain?
Yes, it was.
Oh, my life. What? Yeah. What a curveball.
Yeah. No, I had a band.
Yeah.
And it was just because I started out in music in Brizzy. There was the Murray Music Workshop for 8 weeks, and it was at Juggera Arts there at Musgrave Park with all my uncles.
Musgrave, what a moment!
And my partner Bain said, "You should go and do it." I was singing in the shower at his place, and I said, "Oh, nah." I said, "I know all their mob. They will run amok mob, Yeah. But mate, those uncles were so well behaved, and it was awesome because I just wouldn't leave the mic. They'd get it for a smoking cup of tea, and they'd be looking at the door. They go, "Leah, sit down. You're making us no good." I said, no, I'm just waiting for you. Just take your time. I wouldn't leave it. It was unreal. So anyway, came through music that way. We did a little tape out there called Sharing the Load.
Okay.
And that's the first song I wrote and recorded, Second Best.
Yeah.
And then came to Sydney, wanted to keep the music going because I was enjoying it, but nothing serious. We had a gig at Strawberry Hills Hotel.
And what time of the night? Was it 4 a.m.? Because that place goes till late.
Yeah, no, this was just before the Pokies and all that dropped. I was the last gig there before they brought the machines in. And so no, we would do must have been 8:30 time slot.
Lovely.
And then around midnight, Up the Cross was my other little haunt on a Wednesday night. And doing the busiest times and the best times that we ever did music was when we went through NAIDOC month, and through
Booked
that month of
then.
July, mate, festivals everywhere. And it's such a shame we don't have that now, mate. Yeah. And some of the best times were going out Alice Springs and the Mob because they love their Inmar. They'd come for that rock and roll, So, I got Shania Twain was touring. She was looking for an Indigenous support.
Beautiful.
And they sort of, would have wanted a male so that she's the female, she's dominant. Yep. But there was no one sort of that was around to be quick and that could do country. There was probably Nocturnal was the only other 4 band because they said, we just want a 4-piece, but they were heavy metal. And they said, Leah, can you swing your music country? And I went,
for Shania Twain, of course.
Yeah, I can swing whatever you want to swing.
Yeah, man, I feel like a woman.
Yeah. So, and then, had that opportunity to tour the East Coast with her, but she panicked when we did a sound check because we said, since we can't do our heavy stuff, we started sound check with this real heavy, like we got some heavy rock stuff, and she come flying out of the dressing room going, "You got me a heavy band." I went, calm down, sister, it's all good. Wow. I got my 3/4 for you later, Yeah. I said, well, we're just having fun. This is just warm up because the boys, the mixing group, just come off a tour with Bruce Springsteen.
Oh wow!
So it was so cool to play our music, and they were sort of bopping. You go, that's a compliment, because they know good music or not. And it was really, really cool.
Oh, so, I love that. Well, the first time I heard you sing was at the end of your most recent film that you drove his wife. And as soon as you started singing, I was like, why haven't I heard her voice before? It's beautiful. Yeah. You wrote that song for the film and performed it in the end, or
no? That was that's a Irish
a cover.
Lament. Is that? Yeah, Lament.
Okay.
And so it's been around forever, and there's many variations of it. And actually, when we were doing the play, the composer and sound designer, I said, there needs to be a song, and I was looking at some more hymn-based kind of stuff, and then he came in with a few suggestions, and Nina Simone sings it, does a version.
I love her.
And then I sort of did my version of Black Is.
Yeah, Black Is, that's right.
And then, but when we did that in the film, I had no intentions. I was looking at someone like a Jess Malboy.
That was the demo?
Lisa. No, the composer come back and said, Leah, it has to be you. I was giving her all these names. She said, why are you giving me all these names? And I said, just for the singers for the end. She goes, no, it has to be Molly Johnson singing to the next generation. And what she said was, it has to be you singing to the next generation. And I said, I haven't sung in 20 years. She goes, no, I meant Molly needs to sing. Yeah. She said, so get over yourself, Leah. We need Molly to sing. And I said, okay, thanks. And it was, I was gunanga myself when I walked back into the sound, when I had to go and record, and I'm making all these excuses. And the engineer was great. He said, Leah, shut up. You know how to sing. Off we go. And you just press the button, and away we went. So,
I love that.
Yeah, nah. It's something every now and then, you get itchy for the stage, or if I go see a live performance, I go, because the power in music is just next level,
Obviously, that film had massive impact. You got the actor for it, it was a big moment. I actually, when I first watched it, I watched it on a little laptop when I got sent a screener. And I remember the thing that I remembered, and I thought, this is the epitome of Australian film. Like, I felt like, wow, this is such a rich, beautifully told story. You didn't just direct, you produced, you acted in it. Out of those 3 things, what's the go-to for you? What's your favourite thing to do, or is there a delicate balance there?
There's a delicate balance, but if, writer-director is pretty powerful, especially in film. because in film you have more control. Television is more of a producer's domain. But I also like the challenge that gives, because you're taking on other people's notes and you're got your creativity, and it's about finding the balance.
Yeah.
Acting is when you get to my age now, you go, yep, I just want to rock up, hit my mark, say my line, be deadly and go home, you know. And then you don't have the worry of what's tomorrow other than learning your lines, you know. So it does vary. But when I am in my performance mode, I get so much work done. Like when I was in Wentworth, I finished the book of Drover's Wife.
Okay.
When Rita was in the slot in Series 7.
Okay.
When the big siege, when I was locked up, I was there writing.
Rescue anyone?
No, I couldn't get out there and be Superwoman, but I was being Superwoman type, and the first AD would tap on the window as he'd walk past to call action, and when he tapped, I'd slip that computer under the mattress, and I'm up at the door at the wall.
Big contraband. You got contraband in there.
So I am at my most, where I'm creative, and I catch up on my work because I'm away, I can focus. I've got a schedule, so I put my writing schedule around that and just smash stuff out. Yeah. Look, I can come across as a snobby bitch because I'm sitting in the green room working all the time, but I say to people, mate, I'm running a company, and if I want work when this is over, I've got to put the hours in.
100%. Yeah. I know that you're talking about an opera. Is that happening?
Yeah.
Amazing. So an opera version of this film, what does that look like?
Oh, mate, it's pretty awesome when you get the big voices in the room and singing your words. So we took the libretto off the play. The composer came to us, chased me for a year, saying, I really think this could be an opera. And he said, let's just work to edit the play into a libretto. I had written some arias, some songs for it, or edited his and put ideas in. And then we're looking to have a workshop at the end of the year and just listen to the orchestra play it, because that's what we haven't had. We've had sort of looking at the story, seeing what it felt like, looking for actors out there. So if there's any Aboriginal males out there or Torres Strait Islander men that might have a big voice, I'd love to see you for the lead role of Yadika. So it's pretty awesome when they're singing the words that you wrote, and it's opera. And
what about Gory Knox?
Oh, yeah, no, he's on the list. Yeah. No, I saw him. Gori come in for an audition, and I told all their mob, I had some wild cards. I said, don't come singing pop songs. Yeah. I said, you can look at Porgy and Bess. I said, because that's allowing you to have a big voice. Like, look at the music, the opera of that. I said, watch some old movies, old musicals, and get those big songs, those big numbers. But no good, he come with a pop song. Yeah. So I'm watching him there, and he was all little high, little squeaky voice, and he was, it was all good. And then I started saying, go on, shake a leg now, bro, because I could see he could move. Yeah. And I'm looking, because Yadika's got to be able to move, so I'm watching him, and I said, oh no, Uncle can move. Yeah. Then when they get over their nerves, I go stand in one corner, and I said, if I was one of your little nephews, and I was in your room going to steal some money out of your drawer, how would you yell out to me? Yeah. Oh, then they got the big voice, I bet. Yeah. And I said, see that's your singing voice. Open it up. Yes. And and then I would do I said, repeat after me, and I'd do Stevie Wonder's Happy something real simple, and then I go, that's your singing voice, dude. Yeah, so
because we grew up together.
Oh, true.
In Tamworth,
of course.
His family are, blackfella country music royalty.
Uncle Roger,
Uncle Roger and Buddy. And so we grew up together, and we went to the same school. We had basically our teens together. And then I came here, started, working in media, and I always wanted him to come, to come to the Big Smoke, and he ended up coming, and he's just gone from,
Oh, mate, he's going to be sitting in that for 6 months, and then I said, then I want you to come straight to me and audition for Yadika. Yeah. No,
isn't it funny that I brought him up and didn't even know this?
No, absolutely.
When people come to mind for certain things, you speak about powerful voice, I think, oh, he's got it.
Yeah. So no, it's exciting.
But I wanted to bring up something with you, which is quite funny. So when you probably auditioned hundreds and hundreds of actors over the years, do you think that you remember most of them?
A name I might not, but a face I do.
Okay.
And I am a very loyal director. If I like someone, or if someone's, got something special, I'll always try to push them. Because I get phone calls all the time asking, do you know this mob or that mob? And even now, where I did here out west.
Yeah.
You know, I worked with a Chinese group and Indian mob, you know, and there were some great actors in there. So
Yeah.
I'm always, where I can, I push people
Yeah.
to the front. I said, never mind if they need to be blonde hair, blue-eyed. I said, have a look at this. I'm always,
Totally.
and even when I'm directing something, I'll always bring a wild card in. And that wild card, for example, the fellow who played Robert, Tony, well, maybe he'll listen to this. But when I was just looking at, you know, you get sent the casting booklets and photos, and then I said, okay, for my wild card, I picked 3. 2 of them, no good.
Yeah.
But this one fella come in, and it was just because of his jaw.
Yeah.
Just his jawline, and I said, I want him to come in. And the funny thing is I had my back to the door, and I know Tony, I'd worked with him 10 years ago on something. He's got a great voice.
Yep.
And when he walked in, it said Miss Purcell, and I went, hey, I know that fellow's voice, but that don't match the face. You know, and then when I turned around, it was Tony, and he did the audition. You know, if it wasn't for his photo looking different from him, I might not have got him in because I went, oh, yeah, I know Tony.
Yeah.
But he just had this jawline, great photo. I brought him in, and he did it, and and that was about, you know, I had 25 years in the industry at that stage, and I hadn't had goosebumps from an audition. No one had moved me that much in about 20 years.
Wow.
And before he literally left the room, he was walking across the Belvoir upstairs rehearsal area. It's quite a distance to the door. I just turned around to everyone and I went, it's him.
There you go.
For I'm whispering here on radio too. I went, it's him. And I just said, I said, look, I've got goosebumps. I have not felt that in 20 years. And he got the role of one of the stockmen.
I love this. Well, the reason I bring it up is because I'm going to take you back a long time. But you auditioned me for something.
Oh, no, was I nice?
You were.
Oh, good.
You were, but I was a kid.
Oh.
And so I'm going back to when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I came in and I was auditioning for Redfern Now. It was the callbacks.
Yes.
And I came in school uniform.
Yeah.
And it was me and with Shani McDermott.
Oh,
do you know Shani?
Wow, yeah.
And so it was in some audition room in Surrey Hills.
Yeah.
And I came in, and obviously knowing of you, I was so intimidated. There was bloody Leah Purcell. I had no idea that you were going to be in the audition room. And it was such a good learning experience for me, but you pushed me. Like, I was a young kid, and this was one of my first auditions, but I remember you pushing me.
Yes.
And it was a tough scene. It was a scene where I had to be quite aggressive with Shani. And I was like, after all these years, obviously now connecting with you, I'm like, oh, gee, that was such a moment for me, because I remember I got to 2 callbacks for Redfern Now.
Yeah.
And at the last one, you were there.
Yeah, wow.
It's just a bit of a full circle moment, you know?
Absolutely. I'm glad I pushed, because I do push people. But one of the things I say to everyone that comes in, I want you to win this.
Yeah.
I said, so don't hold nothing back. And no one's ever said that to me when I walked into an audition.
Totally.
But it was something that Russell Crowe said once, where he goes, I do what they ask, and then I ask them to let me do one take how I see it.
I love that.
So that's what I do. I walked in, I went, that's such a good thing, because, and that's why I asked someone, I said, do you want me to direct you first and give you my interpretation, or would you like to show me what you've prepared? But now I just go, show me what you prepared, because you might have a better idea of what this role's about.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes them feel so comfortable. And I said, there's no wrong here, mate.
Yeah.
I said, it's about just diving in and doing your best. And I say to people, do not walk out of this room if there's one more take in you.
Oh, I love that.
Because that might be the one.
Wow.
That wins you over. And a lot of actors have come up and said, no one's ever said that to me before, and I felt that I could be myself in that situation.
Yeah. Oh, well, what a beautiful way to wrap this yarn up.
We could talk all
I know,
day.
we could talk all day.
Just got started.
I know. It's like one of those things where you have so much to give, and I feel like you've given the industry and especially First Nations mob so much. So thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. I think that if you look at someone's legacy, it's quite profound what you've done in the industry. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you so much for being on our pod today.
No, my pleasure.
I just have to say, Brooke, before she met you the other day at ABC, she was real big fangirl.
No.
She was.
Well, Leah, I
Yes, of
don't want to
course.
fangirl, but yeah, you are probably one of my biggest inspirations. Because I'm not. I'm early in my acting career. Obviously, my journey's been reality TV, which is very, very different. So learning the craft, I've been I didn't have many people to look up to, and I think you're one of them because I enjoy the writing aspect. I really enjoy directing as well, and I think you inspire me that you can have it all, but you can do it all, but you can, do it with such grace as well. And I don't know. I don't want to get too sentimental, but you are probably one of my idols in this industry.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm actually just so grateful that you came on and said yes to doing the podcast for us. It means so much to us
No
to
worries,
have you.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
You should have said, for me to do my job right, I've got to tell you one thing. No, well, thank you.
Literally, I was like, I felt like I'm not even hosting. I just was like a fly on the wall.
I love
but
that.
it was the best because
Yeah.
I think that I know that the audience are going to feel so inspired by this episode, even if you're not even in the industry. I think your messaging and everything that you say is just so inspirational. But I think also like some learnings in there if you look at it from that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you to you both for asking.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening to First Things First. If you love what you hear, leave us a rating and a little review.
And if you want us to share anything on the podcast, hit us up on the socials. My handle is at Brooke.Bletton, Maddie's is at It's Maddie Mills, and Leah is at Leah Purcell. And you can check out all the Nova action at Nova Podcast Official. See you on the next episode.
All right,
Bye.
you mob. Bye.